Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bianca Durrani, CEO of Aperio Philanthropy. We are a fundraising consulting firm that is co-hosting today's webinar with New York University. Our firm exists to drive change in the world. We believe that communities have the power to create a world in which everyone can thrive, and that by dramatically expanding resources for nonprofits, we can accelerate that change. Day to day, we work alongside community leaders and fundraisers to deliver simpler, faster, and smarter ways to generate revenue for their missions. Our client services provide strategic advisory, hands-on support, and embedded fundraisers to organizations nationwide. As a firm created to drive change, we're thrilled to be hosting today's event with New York University. For the past several years, we've been facilitating conversations among leaders and practitioners about the role of philanthropy in solving complex societal challenges. Today's event is going to focus on sustainer giving and how we bring our communities together to create change collectively. Really excited now to introduce Michelle D'Amico.
Thanks, Bianca. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle D'Amico, and I'm the Director of Continuing Education and Public Programs at the NYU SPS Center for Global Affairs, or CGA, and I'm delighted to welcome you to today's conversation. Before I turn this over to our impressive speakers, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Center for Global Affairs. Since its founding, our goal at the CGA has been to prepare global citizens to make a positive impact in the world. We do this through a variety of activities, including our 2 graduate programs, one in global affairs and another MS in global security, conflict, and cybercrime. We also offer a wide variety of skills and knowledge-based continuing education courses and offer public events such as this that expand upon the topics we cover in our classrooms. We are very proud to be home to the George H. Heyman Jr. Program for Fundraising and Philanthropy. Through our open enrollment courses, on-site intensives, and certificate in fundraising, we offer professionally oriented educational options for those looking to enter or grow within the fundraising field. Courses are taught by practitioner faculty who bring their vast experience, expertise, and networks to the classroom. We'll send out additional information about our programs following today's conversation, so please feel free to reach out with any questions you may have. And now I'm delighted to introduce today's moderator, Beth Wrubleski. Beth is a seasoned mass market fundraiser who is passionate about building and growing large-scale direct response programs for nonprofits. She currently works at the Obama Foundation as the Senior Director of Direct Response, where she has dedicated her time to developing and launching a sustainable and reliable income stream for the foundation, with a priority focus on acquiring and retaining a large audience of recurring donors. Prior to the foundation, Beth oversaw Amnesty International USA's direct mail fundraising program, the growth of their dedicated mid-level donor program, and the member services department. And now, without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Beth and today's panelists.
Thanks, Michelle. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm thrilled to be here with you. As you know, we're going to explore a very exciting topic today that's been around for some time across many different industries, but it's seeing new momentum in today's very fast-paced nonprofit landscape, sustainer giving. You might also know that as recurring giving or monthly giving, goes by a few different names. You may also hear around our industry how valuable these donors are and how quickly these audiences are growing. Just last year alone, nonprofits saw a 10% increase in donors who enrolled in recurring giving programs. And on average, monthly giving accounted for over 30% of all online revenue. And that's up 5% from the previous year. And the popularity of recurring giving programs are not one-sided. They provide a win-win for our organizations, both for donors whose ongoing support is an easy path to understanding their impact, and also for our nonprofit organizations. This is critically dependable revenue for the mission and helps organizations plan for the future. Realizing the full potential of a program like this takes a lot of intentionality, as we all know. It includes communicating proactively, creating a sense of belonging for this community, and providing ongoing opportunities for them to connect more deeply to our missions. In this session, we're going to explore a few different topics today. We're going to talk about trends and predictions. What are we seeing across our industry? What's been changing over the last couple of years? And what can we anticipate that's going to change even more rapidly in the next few months? We're also going to share some practical tips from our wonderful speakers on what it's like to start and build a program. If you have an ongoing program, what are some best practices that you can implement? Or if you haven't gotten started, how do you get started? We're also going to talk about how to integrate sustainer giving into the broader donor journey. I know I've heard before that these folks come on file, set it and forget it, but we as fundraisers know that we have to communicate with them, and sometimes even more frequently than other donor groups. And then lastly, we'll talk about some common mistakes to avoid when thinking about your sustainer cohort. So let's get into it. It's my pleasure to introduce our very distinguished panel, starting with Kendra Paiz, who is the Director of Annual Fund at the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina, where she leads strategic fundraising efforts to support the organization's mission of ending hunger. With 5 years of experience at the food bank, she's helped drive growth across direct response, digital giving, donor engagement initiatives, including their robust sustainer program. Kendra is passionate about building meaningful connections with supporters to advance sustainable impact in the community. Welcome, Kendra. Next up, we've got Liz Scott, is the co-executive director of Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, where she works alongside companies, families, schools, and individuals dedicated to curing childhood cancer one cup at a time. Welcome, Liz. And lastly, we're welcoming Dana Snyder, who is the founder of Positive Equation, creator of the Monthly Giving Builder, a sought-after keynote speaker and workshop facilitator, and the author of the Monthly Giving Mastermind, a framework to build, grow, and sustain subscriptions for good. She's also the host of a global nonprofit podcast, Missions to Movements, and host of the Monthly Giving Summit, a worldwide event for nonprofit professionals focused on building stronger recurring revenue programs. Dana helps nonprofits use modern digital marketing, storytelling, and technology to attract supporters and build reliable, recurring giving programs that fuel long-term impact. Welcome, everyone. We're thrilled to have you here. All right, let's get into it. So, setting the stage, this is a question for everyone. To get us started, we'd love to hear the lens that you're bringing to the sustainer giving conversation. Kendra, do you want to go first?
Sure, thank you. I am coming definitely from the lens of boots on the ground. I work with sustainers every day. We have a pretty robust sustainer program with close to 5,000 sustainers. Today, however, it wasn't always like that. So I come from being a sustainer recruiter, a retainer of sustainers, as well as looking someone who has experienced what it takes to keep a sustainer program going.
Wonderful. Liz, we'd love to hear from you.
I come from the perspective of leadership in a nonprofit, understanding why it's important to put resources behind this sustainable source of income and a little bit about what it takes. And I think the different ways you can approach resource allocation to grow a program.
Very important. And Dana?
Preach, Liz. Leadership is so important. I can definitely second that. So I come from two angles. So I spend time working for a nonprofit, specifically in fundraising, and always wondered why we never talked about monthly giving. We just asked the same people for gifts over and over. And so then I really built my entire business around monthly giving. 5, 6 years ago, I pivoted strictly into this niche subject area because I felt compelled as a monthly donor that I loved giving in this way and wondered why at the time many of my clients weren't asking for recurring. And so thus the research and conversations and discussions began. And so I work with organizations every day, large and small across the board, with brand new programs, starting at pre-launch to very sophisticated programs. And so I've really been able to see like what works, like where are we all at? What are some of the trends that we're seeing right now? What should we be testing? And what can move the needle for each org?
perfect seg into my next question for you, Dana. So, as somebody who focuses exclusively on sustainer giving, can you give us a bit of the lay of the land? What are some of the key concepts and trends that you're seeing right now across the industry?
Yeah, so let me go ahead and share my screen. So this was like a perfect tee up. So earlier this year, as you mentioned, Beth, I hosted the monthly giving summit. So we had about 4,900 nonprofits from 60 plus countries, which was incredible. And I presented these 2026 monthly giving predictions. And just so that I can have the chat up, can everybody see my screen? Okay, looks good. Okay, great. So these 6 predictions came from, and I want to kind of set the stage. I look at a lot of data and research from Giving Tuesday, from the Data Commons, from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project. And I also look at what's happening in the subscription space. So I think it's really important because donors are consumers, consumers are donors. We are one and the same as to what's happening in the subscription space that can guide us into some things that might be coming and relevant to us as well. So the first one being core infrastructure. So this has been a big change. I've seen organizations, I mean, Liz, you were talking to this about leadership being at the forefront of making monthly giving a priority. Monthly giving traditionally for many organizations was seen as like a checkbox. It's a PS message. It's the extra. It's a maybe. It was never leading. So having like a recurring first format and ask and strategy and approach and messaging and marketing and like having a sustainer role, like having an actual complete team around it being this is the backbone of our organization and it's treated as such. When something's core infrastructure, it's given its own budget. It's given a team member. Like there's a different level of responsibility there. So that's one big movement. The second trend is around micro giving. And so this is becoming up, especially like in the past year, where instead of it being we want the biggest ask or how much of a monthly gift can we get, we're seeing a lot due to economics and the economy is start with the easiest yes. So how can we the future isn't necessarily this bigger ask up front, but a smaller ask that's less risky, easier just to get people in the door. This is also there's been a lot of conversations around Gen Z, some of the younger millennial audiences is how can we just get them invited and invested in what we're doing and allow them to feel like this is accessible to give. And I call this the growth of the micro philanthropist. And how do we encourage this steady growth? Trend number 3, and this is huge and like so under recognized, I think, in our space, is that pause and flexibility becomes a non negotiable. And what I mean by this is for those of you listening here today, if your donors do not have a donor portal that they can go in to manage their gift themselves with the option to pause their gift instead of canceling, check your tech stack. This is huge. So this came from specifically the subscription economy, and we're seeing it in our space too with cancellations, is in subscriptions over the past year, there's been a 333% increase in pauses. And when given the option of pause or cancel, over 50% are taking the pause option. So like they're going in with the intent to cancel, but because pause is available, they're choosing it instead. And likely, like your donors probably don't really want to cancel. Maybe something's just hard right now, but they want to come back. So if we can encourage that and make sure that that's front of mind, that's very, very important and can change a lot of our retention numbers. Prediction number 4, can't not talk about AI. I was just at an incredible conference, the Microsoft Global Nonprofit Leaders Summit, talking all about AI. And what it's allowing us to do is actually spend more time on the human side of things so that AI can help rise for us. Where is churn going to happen? How can we recover failed payments? Intervene before someone's going to cancel. If we can track, like, this person hasn't opened their email in 6 months, maybe they deserve a phone call, like raise up for us the things that are like a little bit predictability so the human connection interaction can come into play. So like AI powered donor care becomes necessary. Number 5, retention's built before the gift. So I'm really big on retention first design. So the standard like funnel of how somebody finds us is really messy, right? It could be, I put here, they're inspired by a reel. Then they go to Claude or GPT or whatever AI tool they're using. They're saving something on Pinterest. They're lurking on your site. They're researching your founder, right? In all of these scenarios, what messaging are we using that's going to inspire a recurring first gift to happen? And then lastly is monthly giving communities. Having this in-person IRL component is so important. Monthly giving has always been about the identity of somebody and belonging to something. This is literally powered by neurogiving and science. And I think the question to ask your organizations is, what does belonging look like in an in real life scenario for your organization, whether you're hyper local or regional or national? The photo of me here in the middle is I was at a monthly donor dinner. So I'm a monthly donor to an organization called the Hope Booth. They hosted a dinner for us. They wanted our ideas. They wanted to share vision with us. So these are just a few of the 6, just quick off the bat, about kind of things to think about this year.
Really great takeaways, Dana. Thank you so much for sharing. Those micro philanthropists really stuck with me.
Yeah.
That term. I'm going to put that one in my pocket. All right, let's move on to talking about the case for sustainer giving. Liz, you've shared widely with us that your organization has been really successful in fundraising across so many different channels and audiences. What made you decide to launch a sustainer program, and why is it a priority for you as a leader?
We started with a lemonade stand in my front yard by my daughter, and that was 26 years ago. So when we started the organization after she passed away 22 years ago, 24 years ago, we really decided we had to focus on our revenue streams. So although we had monthly givers for many, many years, it was very passive. And I think Dana just talked about that. I think during the pandemic, as we were looking at, all our robust events being paused, including a lot of lemonade stands, we had the opportunity to step back and think about our next growth opportunities. And clearly, monthly giving was one of those. We set out then to focus on it, put resources behind it, to, grow it considerably. We want to grow it 50% every year for the next 5 years. And that's for all the reasons you've already talked about, right? This is income that's predictable. It's a fantastic way to connect donors to what you're doing because they receive communications and they're part of something bigger, and people love to feel part of something bigger. And I would say, lastly, it's just pretty fantastic to have these group of people committed. I mean, it feels good, right? And I don't want to discount that. It's great for our staff. It's great for all of us who work on it to see how people are signing up and becoming part of the team, as we say.
That's really great. Out of curiosity, was there one change or adjustment that's top of mind for you that you implemented in your program where you saw the highest either conversion of sustainers or sustainers coming on the file when you put more resources behind the program?
There was a lot of testing. And I would say 2 things happened simultaneously. We invested a lot more in digital ads to get in front of potential donors and to bring new people in. We made some technology changes that made it easier for people to do and to pause and restart and to cancel and have control of that. And I would say, lastly, we played with different incentive items and learned that they really work.
Testing it.
Much to my dismay, people responded well to that. And I would say the last thing we did, which actually we get the highest concentration in a short time, is at every one of our in-person events. We have a bunch of culinary events and a gala. We talk about it and we encourage people to join.
So
And
good.
and we see like a quick, 80 people sign up at one event.
Yep. I want to say, Liz, I think your incentive program works. So her monthly giving program, which is called One Cup at a Time Club, and so which is so lovely and interwoven with the brand and organization. And the incentive item, if you go to her website, is a tumbler. So it's like it fits, like it matches what the ask is, what the name is. So I think that's probably why that it's so successful.
And that has been by far our most successful incentive. The other things we've tried have not worked nearly as well as the cup, but I'm assuming because of one cup at a time.
Yeah.
It's symbolic.
That makes so much sense. That's great. Thanks for sharing some of those results, Liz. Kendra, what role do sustainers play in your organization, and why does it matter to your mission?
Great question. At their core, sustainers definitely provide that predictable, reliable revenue, which is very important in the food banking space, as well as other nonprofit organizations that serve our community and providing services such as food. In addition to providing that predictable revenue that we can budget and plan with, it also enables our donors to increase their giving. Just from the output, you're giving maybe 12 gifts instead of one gift. In addition to that, it also creates advocates and ambassadors because we are able to take these donors and thank you for your gift, but we're able to create volunteers, we're able to educate about the organization, and we're able to activate our sustainers when we definitely need advocates and ambassadors in the community. And also, these donors can transition into mid-level or major donors. Once you're a sustainer and you're giving on that recurring basis, we keep you there, but also the size of your gift can change and ultimately get that legacy gift. That potential is there too.
I love to hear you use the term advocates and ambassadors. We know that these folks are so deeply connected to our mission, and it's lovely that you can activate them to support you in what you're doing. Out of curiosity, both Liz and Kendra, do you have named sustainer programs? Have you named your programs, or have you thought about naming them?
Our sustainer program is called Sustainers, and that is something that we have kept for a number of years simply because of the ease of name, the simplicity of it has just worked for us.
And I think it fits with food bank,
Exactly.
with what you do as well. Ours is called the One Cup at a Time Club. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but that's sort of, you become a member of the One Cup at a Time Club with the idea that that small donations, one cup at a time, can add up to big change.
Again, really driving home the collaboration with that premium for sustainers. This also helps us shift into our next topic about where to start when you're starting a sustainer program. Dana, love to hear your feedback on if an organization is just getting started with thinking about sustainer giving, what would be the first steps that you would recommend? And are there any common pitfalls that you think that they should avoid?
Yeah, really good question. So the first one, this is going to sound funny, but this is what comes up a lot in conversations is you need to make time for it. Like it needs to be on the meeting agenda with your board. It needs to be on, like, give it a day, give it a time in your calendar, or else it just gets passed by. It does. Like if something's on your calendar, it's not happening. Liz talked about this, like, cannot emphasize leadership has to be bought in. Like there has to be an awareness that this is a priority that we're going to focus on. So those would be like two big ones that are kind of just more like macro. Tactically speaking, I love that you just asked the naming question. I definitely believe in giving your monthly donors an identity, a name, something that creates that belonging. Two, you want to create the path of least resistance. Like if there's any friction in your donation experience that makes it difficult or they can't find it, especially on a mobile experience, test this. It should be the default, not an afterthought. So checking your tech stack. And then I would say the biggest pitfall is on thinking, this is going to sound funny, but thinking that you always have to ask. So, what I mean by this, there was just some recent research. It's actually not live yet, but that was released, is that the top reason that donors decided to give didn't actually come from an ask, like over 58%. They decided to support a cause they cared about when they noticed them doing important work. So, to that point, the pitfall is don't forget your leadership's thought leadership. Don't forget to share what you're doing. Don't forget to report when things are hard. Like the awareness factor, the visibility, being in the right places. And I'll give a concrete example of this. So I work with an organization that's Ethiopian. And she's been like building up a program. She's got 250, I think, monthly donors, but it's been kind of like stagnant there. And I was like, let's look at what are the Ethiopian events. Talk to me about your current monthly donor makeup and where are they? Like, where are more people like them? And so we found there was one event like in her backyard. There's a really big concentration in DC, and there was great events there. She's like, never been to them. Like making yourself visible in the places that you're currently invisible is one of the biggest pitfalls.
Super helpful. I also love your take and feedback, Dana, on how important it is to put this in front of leadership, and for them to understand how important a program like this is. If you could recommend the quickest pitch or what folks should be saying to their leadership teams to get a program like this started, I would love to hear it.
Numbers. So if you can, so I built in my monthly giving builder, I have a forecasting tool, but I think numbers like speak volumes. If you can showcase to your team what it would look like if 30%, 35% of our total revenue was recurring and what runway that gives the organization, that would make people's just like eyeballs light up. And if you can highlight for them, this is the retention of our recurring donors, here's the retention of our one-time donors. And yet so much emphasis is on the one time and the lifetime value. Like a couple of those core numbers, like total recurring revenue as a percentage, the retention rate, and then the lifetime value of a monthly. If you put those three things in front of leadership, even if you're doing projections and like some scenarios about what you think could happen, that usually seals the deal.
Very helpful. The ability to plan for the future is critical, right? That ongoing revenue coming into an organization is so important.
Yeah, and the majority of them they're small, right? The majority of nonprofits in the US are very small, and we run, I think the last stat from the independent nonprofit sector report was like we run on like 4 months of budget runway. That's it. The majority. So how can we shift that?
Sustainers. Thanks, Dana. Liz, you talked a little bit about this earlier, but when you decided you wanted to prioritize sustainer giving, what were some of the first steps that you or your team took to take that on?
I want to share in full disclosure because I was part of the not needing to be totally convinced, but I needed a little more. My husband, who's the co-executive director, was the one who was all about building this program. And so he took the steps, and he oversees that department. I would say technology, how are we going to do this? Like it sounds like it's very in the weeds, but it's so important for all the reasons I already said. You need a way for people to do it easily, for them to collect it without, running somebody's cards every month, right? You need to have the technology in place to do this program. And that includes understanding how you're going to communicate with them, having a set of, communication tools that you're ready to use the minute that first person signs up, right? What that communication is going to look like generally, and some specific messaging that you already have. I would say that's the two most important things. I didn't have to be convinced because I knew it was important, but I had to be convinced of prioritizing that ask over other asks. And Dana's exactly right. The thing that convinced me was, I think we were doing some kind of thing on Alex's birthday, and we always asked for donations. And I was like, whoa, it seems risky to say, let's make a recurring gift and lower the amount that we're asking, because it was like a big day. And they showed me the lifetime value of a monthly giver, how long they usually give for, what's the average, which is quite long, and what the average donation is. And I'm thinking, okay, well then if the person signs up, this is actually going to be, 7 times what they might have given on that one day, or 8 or 10 times, really. So those numbers are really important, and they're very convincing. people making decisions can't really deny the numbers, but they also have to be realistic, right? They have to be grounded in what's possible and what kind of growth and how are you going to grow it? Where do the numbers come from?
I think that's so important, especially for you to say that as a leader, Liz, because I've heard similar feedback around the difference between receiving a one-time gift immediately versus a smaller upfront donation of a monthly donation, and really driving home that long-term value of a sustainer over time is so critical. And I'm curious if anybody has either done this or prioritized monthly giving or one-time giving at certain times of the year. Like for example, at end of year, do you push sustainer giving? Do you maintain one-time giving? I think there's an argument to be made
I
there.
can speak real quickly on that. We have a lot of different initiatives and campaigns. So we start by working it into certain months that are quieter time, which isn't end of year. It's, other months where we feel like we have an opportunity. But then we also include the messaging in the other campaigns in a way that makes sense for that campaign.
That's great. Really important.
And we do something similar, Liz. Of course, it's always at top of um, mind to ask someone to become a sustainer, incorporating in our different campaigns. But we definitely take advantage of a big advocacy month for us in September, which is Hunger Action Month, but also in January to pick up all of the new donors that we may have received over the holiday season from October to December.
That's really great. And fits with the next question I had for you, Kendra, is how have you gone about inspiring folks to join your sustainer program? What's worked the best and maybe what hasn't worked?
Yeah, I think the one thing that works the best is making sure that you can easily become a sustainer. So if you come to if you go to our donation page, you're going to see an arrow over monthly donor. Secondly, giving education on the impact of being a recurring donor. And how it supports the organization. And then also stewardship. How do we steward these donors? We have a stewardship officer that they know by name because they receive things from this stewardship officer. So therefore, if you're having problems with your portal or just need a little technical assistance with things, they know to call this person or reach out to this person. In addition, we give our sustainers a special newsletter, special appreciation. We also have some exclusive behind the scenes tours that we invite them to. And then we do 2 special volunteer days just for sustainers to come out and bring their families and volunteer and connect to our mission a little more.
Those are wonderful ideas, Kendra. That sounds like a really great, solid program. And it also connects to thinking about building a meaningful donor journey for this audience. Dana, I'm curious, in your work in this space, once an organization has an established program, what would you say is the secret sauce for retaining these donors? We hear retention, retention, retention. How do we keep them on file and how do we keep them engaged?
It's really interesting. So I've talked to some organizations where like it actually doesn't matter for it was just a very interesting statement to make. If we've done a good job at immersing them in our mission and making them feel really compelled when they make their first gift, the retention stewardship hasn't mattered. They've stayed. They've tested whether or not we send the emails every month, whether we do the outreach or we don't. And I think that's interesting. And I think that can work for some. Otherwise, I do like proactive communication. So I love not just reaching out if a card fails, right, or something, but it's reaching out to celebrate a special milestone moment, to share wins. I love when SMS has been integrated and it's not for ask, but just doing like quick wins or saying thank you or, oh my gosh, you've been giving for 6 months. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Like, here's a little impact. Um, Proof of impact. So when we are sending out emails, I had somebody ask me, do we really have to send 12 thank you emails a year? And I was like, they shouldn't be thank you emails, really. They should be updates to your impacts. They don't have to be just thank you, thank you, thank you, or it can feel really repetitive, but more so like what's happening? Should they be continuing to give to this? And I would say, especially make sure that you have those being sent out and that you're tracking the responsiveness to them. So, like a big conversation right now with emails on email open rates, like click through rates. Is that data accurate? Going through and making sure that your emails are being open. Because if that's your core way of communicating with people, but then they're not seeing it, that might be why you're seeing retention drop off at certain months. Um, but I loved Kendra's examples are great. Like that's a very diverse way of she has the in-person elements, the VIP moments, like even just even just providing those moments. I was talking to an organization yesterday where they're doing a brunch. They're doing an in-person brunch in the Hollywood Hills in beautiful Los Angeles. And she's like, I was only going to invite the people that are local to LA. And I was like, no, invite everyone because you should let them know what you're doing, whether they can attend or not. And it's an engagement moment. They could say, wow, that looks spectacular. Wish we could be there. Sending hugs to you all. Thank you for all you do. Like just the communication about the appreciation event, even if they can't attend, is powerful. So I think it's like, how can you create those personalized, proactive communication moments?
That's really great feedback. Even just the visibility is worthwhile to folks. They want to feel invited. They want to feel like they could be in the room if they wanted to be.
Totally.
Kendra, you talked a little bit about mid-level planned giving, major giving programs earlier on the call. How does your sustainer engagement overlap with those relationship management strategies?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, regardless of the size of your giving, if you are a sustainer, and you become a mid-level donor or a major donor, you still remain in the realm of sustainers. However, our sustainer program collaborates and works with our other programs. They work well because if anything, our sustainer program builds the pipeline for both major donors, mid-level donors, as well as planned giving to get legacy gift commitments as well.
That's great. Really thoughtful. Liz, we know you for grassroots fundraising. How have you integrated sustainer giving into those efforts specifically?
It's still a work in progress, but we started with allowing our lemonade stand hosts, Million Mile participants, anyone who's doing third-party fundraising for us, our companies that support us by fundraising, to let their employees, let their donors know that they can give monthly to their page. So everyone gets their own, just like their own page, custom page. And that money will be sort of tallied towards their total. This works especially well for childhood cancer families who are fundraising for us, so that people who want to prioritize giving to support a cause that's really close to their heart have the opportunity to do so all year long, but it's also showing up on the page that's in honor of this child. And it works for companies because they can be a little competitive. So it's a way for them to compete within or internally on their different pages to see how they can get their totals up for the year. Our messaging, we're still working on making, among all the priority messages we have when somebody's having a third-party event, making that message, giving it the importance it deserves. So probably doing more of that this year.
That's great. Well, I still have you, Liz. As a leader, what advice would you have for other leaders thinking about these types of programs?
I mean, I think there's many tools, as we've seen here, to explore the value. If it's coming from leadership and they feel they want to kind of get the planning going, or they need to convince their board or whomever to put resources behind it. I think also, honestly, joining a cause you care about as a sustaining a monthly giver is a really great way to support important causes outside of the one you're working for, but also see what it feels like to be on the other side of it and to also learn what works and what doesn't work from a donor perspective.
It's really great. Really great.
I think my husband, I don't know how many he's a member of, many, many, many just things he likes anyways. And he thought, well, I can join and I can kind of see do some research and see what works for me and what might work for others as well.
I think I'm giving to like 7 right now. And
Yeah.
it is such a good, such a good point about like what's
Yeah.
working, what, yeah.
Yeah, a
Because
great
most of them you can give, $20, $5,
Yeah.
$30, whatever you feel is important.
and a great way to see what you like about their journey and their experience. And also useful for the programs that we're all building. Thanks for that, Liz. Kendra, how do you evaluate if your program is healthy? How do you define a healthy sustainer program? Are they quantitative indicators? Are they qualitative indicators? What's really top of mind for you?
I think it's a mix of both. I do not think you can just rely on the number of sustainers you have, but you really have to look closely at your retention, who's coming in, who's going out, who's steady, as well as looking at factors such as donor satisfaction by doing donor surveys, who's upgrading. Quarterly, I look at quarterly upgrades, who has upgraded, as well as thinking about when people actually cancel versus pause. How can we work to maybe reclaim those donors at some point, as well as who has made a planned gift commitment from this, who is coming to our events and advocating for us in the community as well.
I'm curious, talking about upgrades and recapture processes, have you found that any channel or outreach has provided the biggest return, either from an upgrade perspective or recapture? Are you calling folks? Are you emailing them? Curious, Kendra, what those programs look like.
We do a little bit of both, but one thing that has been really helpful for us is our sustainers who have every 18 months, we actually send an email that is an ask to upgrade because often the great thing about being a sustainer is set it and forget it, right? But sometimes we don't want you to forget it. We want you to be there and to be able to upgrade that gift. And it's amazing the number of people who, after that period of time, they're used to giving this particular sum per month to us. So they don't even notice it anymore. And then when we come in, and of course, they see our impact pieces and things like that. But when we come in with the hard ask to upgrade, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was just giving this. Yes, I will upgrade. So I think that is something that is very important and overlooked. We also enlist volunteers that are sustainers to make some phone calls for some peer-to-peer calls.
Those advocates and ambassadors. Wonderful.
Definitely,
That's
at all times.
Okay, one last question before we move to questions from our audience. Dana, common mistakes you see. How can organizations course correct?
I mean, the biggest one is that it's hidden. Like you might not think that it is. Go check your websites. Is it easy to find? Is there a button that literally in the upper right-hand corner, most of the times we have donate. Is there a separate one that says give monthly? Like that big difference. There's been a lot of studies that it creates like an over 40% increase when you just have a separate button that goes to a monthly giving landing page specifically with a monthly giving form. Like again, don't don't let people have analysis paralysis of too many options of things because if we have too many options, we'll click nothing, especially on mobile. Like decisions are happening so fast that you want to make it very simple for them to find it. So that's definitely the first one. And kind of to Kendra was talking a little bit about this, but is don't ignore a failed payment. There are most of the tech platforms will do like a 3-part email follow up, but if you just have either a text or a phone call, something that can help, that is a great win back. A lot of times people are like, oh, I didn't even know my credit card was expiring. Thanks for letting me know. Like, yes, I definitely do want to do that. I also, can I share my screen one more time? As Kendra was sharing, this just popped up in my inbox literally, well, every month that it pops up in my inbox. because I give monthly to this organization, I think this should work. Okay. This is an email I got from Surfrider Foundation that I give, as you can see, $10.90 a month to. And so this is kind of like they send other emails that are more impact based. But what I love on here is that I can very quickly upgrade my gift. This is using Fundraise Up as a tool. If I click into this, I don't think it's gonna pop me out to a different screen. It directs me right to an upgrade page, which I can switch to in a second. I don't log into anything. And if I click go to donor portal, I can easily change my credit card, upgrade, pause, whatever. Just to show you how literally easy this is. This is the upgrade. So when I clicked the upgrade, this is what it took me to. So it already knows that I cover my transaction cost. It's used AI to let me increase by $1, 6, or 11, or I could do custom, and then I can confirm or no thanks, and that's it. Like talking about tech making it easy for you, I just wanted to showcase in real time, like that's how simplified an upgrade campaign can be.
Really helpful. Thank you for sharing that. I love that that came over right in the middle of
Yeah.
our conversation. We have many really great questions from our audience. So I'm going to pitch it to all of you and happy to have anyone answer. What are some good databases for donors to be able to manage their accounts? I know, Dana, you just mentioned Fundraise Up, but curious, Liz, Kendra, and Dana with more information on Fundraise Up, if you have any other thoughts.
Ours is custom built by an outside web development firm. So all the portal and everything is built. Because the rest of our website is built because we do some different things like with mile tracking and stuff like that. So I think the most important thing is that whatever your payment processor you're using has a really good way of handling monthly recurring donations. We used to use a different one that was not as good. It required a lot more manual work from our team, especially for like cards that were declined. Now we use a new one. I think it's Braintree, and they're much better with what they offer for monthly givers.
I also think a tool that has a great self-service portal is both helpful to the donor as well as to you. That being said, there's still some technical assistance that may need to take place, but I know there are several platforms, Classy and Luminate through Blackbaud, both have great portals.
So I just had Michelle, I just sent to you. I have a blog post on like top tech stacks for monthly giving. I would just say make sure everything can connect natively. So if you're using a different front end tool, make sure the CRM can coexist. Where's your email tool? Can it also natively exist? You don't want things to be separate. Ideally, you want to automate at what you can. I would also, this is usually in the fine print of any tech platform, but make sure this is a little data-y, but make sure you own your tokens of your donors, that the payment processor platform is your own, so that if you ever do want to migrate, you're not having to pay the platform in order to do so, because that can get expensive and tricky. So just asking these platforms some more detailed questions about, like, obviously, if you're going to sign up with them, you don't want to think about moving, but like, who knows, that could happen. Like, what does that actually look like? So to ask some of those harder questions. But yeah, I love Fundraise Up. Give Butter is great. Like, there's a lot of great tools. It's just really thinking about your entire tech stack and making sure that they can talk to each other.
Super helpful. Thanks, everyone. Kendra, this is a question for you. Someone wants to know what percentage of your donor file is sustainers?
Our percentage of sustainers compared to our whole donor file would be about 5%.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. This person wants to pitch a sustainer program to their team. One question they're sure they'll be asked is, how often do people sign up for monthly giving just to get the cup or other items, then turn around and cancel? So Liz, I think this one's for you.
I know that it makes our team working on it absolutely insane that people do that. Having said that, the number of people canceling, I should put it this way, the retention rate over time, it only has affected it minimally. But yes, you are going to get people. So we've tried different things. It's you have to go into it knowing that that's a possibility and you have to continue to look at it. So we've tried making sure their second payment processes, right? Which is what we're currently doing. My husband thinks that that's a barrier. So I think we're going back to, you get the cup, and if you cancel after 1 month, then we've still got your email. We've still got an opportunity potentially to connect with you. So it's a necessary evil, I would say. But we haven't seen it. It's not a high percentage as one might think it is. There's not, thousands of people signing up to get a free cup.
I've worked
Right.
with
But
the Tim Tebow Foundation on this. Month 3 was the sweet spot. They had a t-shirt. The other thing you could do is, I don't know, Liz, if you do this or if they just get the cup, but Surfrider that I just showed, they had me opt in if I wanted the free t-shirt.
yes, you have to opt in if you want it. Through the ads, we get a lot of people who are like, oh,
Yes.
yes, I would love this cup. I'm going to sign up. The majority of them stick around. We're not, we're still greatly increasing
Right.
over people who cancel. But you have to know if you're going to offer an incentive, that is something that may happen, and you should price the incentive accordingly, right? I mean, you could say, well, we're going to only get an incentive that we know the average first donation is going to more than cover. So like we're not losing money on it. There's a lot of ways you can pitch that. But I think understanding the numbers, there's probably data out there. Dana's better source than I am on incentives in monthly giving programs, and kind of what to expect. Being armed with that information would probably help as well.
Thanks for sharing, Liz. We've got another question here. My donate page has an option for different frequencies of recurring giving: weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly, quarterly, annually. Are any of these useful in our opinion besides monthly? Would love to hear from anyone in the group.
I think that may depend on some of the financial aspects of your organization, such as how do you report projections? How do you report budget? Definitely giving other options may increase ease of giving, whether maybe someone wants to give quarterly versus monthly. But then also, I think as an organization, you have to look at the aspect of how does that affect your budget? If you have someone that is given weekly versus on a monthly basis with that easier reporting.
And
It
we were
also
doing
can,
multiple options, and we went to just monthly at this point, for I think a variety of reasons. There were so few people opting in for the other ones. That was part of the reason. It's not to say we won't try again once we kind of feel like we've run our course with the monthly givers, but we decided that if we want to focus and advertise, we wanted to have one really simple message, and that's monthly.
yeah, I agree. If there's, again, it goes back to like analysis paralysis. Is there too many options that we're presenting someone with? Which is the right choice? Which is the wrong choice? Do I get these swag items if I pick this different amount? However, I have seen like the every 2 weeks or weekly work really well when it aligns with a story or like a campaign or something specific that you're running. In the political space, this can work really well because it's like we need your support up to like this race. So like donate weekly this amount. And so it depends on what is there a story angle that those other ones make more sense.
Thanks, everyone. And I'll just quickly share that personally, we just launched a membership program where previously we've been prioritizing monthly giving. We added an annual option to our direct mail efforts for membership, and it's been performing really well for us. So a potential test for folks to consider. Thanks, everyone, for your wonderful questions. We're getting towards the end, and I would love to ask our panel just one final question to weigh in on. So, in a sentence or two, if every organization here made one small change in the next 6 months related to sustainer giving, what should it be? Kendra, do you want to start?
Sure, engage your sustainers. I think donor engagement is very important and it keeps them on the donor continuum.
And I guess I would say it's similar, know who your monthly donors are, and they are your advocates and your champions out there. Um, and don't only consider them monthly donors. I mean, they're a huge, important part of your organization for many different campaigns, volunteer opportunities, events, whatever you think will speak to them, but definitely view them through the lens of the whole organization and what they bring, not just the monthly gift, which can seem anonymous in some ways, right? Because it's done automatically.
I would say look at your year, like set aside time to do this. So like put an hour, 90 minutes, half a day, whatever you need in your calendar and look at the rest of 2026 and say, what are the events? What are the campaigns? What are the moments that we already have an ask going on? And how do we integrate monthly to it? And then, second, what are our white spaces that we don't have anything going on? That could we have a monthly giving ask here? And then, thirdly, what are kind of like the always on simple things like we all have email signatures. Could there be something listed at the bottom of that? Do you have a volunteer run program? Do you have an email that goes out? Is there a monthly ask? Like, what are just like the easy, always on like things that are happening that you just don't have recurring a part of? So I would say, how can you just make sure to fit it into your calendar?
Really valuable takeaways. Thank you so much to our speakers, Dana, Kendra, Liz. We really appreciate all of your feedback, your ideas. I hope that it's been useful to everyone that's joined us today and you are taking away some actionable items for your own programs, whether they exist yet or they're already running. I wish you all the best of luck. And thank you to our hosts, Michelle and Bianca. It's been a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I hope you have a great day and be well. Take care, everyone.